Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom. We are back in the superhero battle room with buttons I've never touched, but my next guest probably has used them all. He is a man that went over and served his country, and we're not giving you the branch anymore because it's your job to guess based on his conversation. And now he has a mission to serve the hunting community with a great way to go over and connect with them. So he's going to go share his inspiring story, and we're going to get into it. And if you're watching live or in the chat, you go over and try to guess his branch. If he gives it away and you guessed it afterwards, it doesn't count. So you have to think it through. So put your comments in the chat right now. We're going to bring him on stage. Hey, Ryan, do I have you?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So let's get this party started. So let's go back many moons ago or many minutes ago, depending on how long that you came in or came out. The funny thing is that I would look way older without the stash, so I keep it clean. So I've been in for a long time. But what inspired you to join the military?
To be honest, there was no one in particular thing. It was just something I always wanted to do ever since I was a little kid. I went and saw Saving Private Ryan in theaters as a kid, which probably not the greatest thing for a kid to see a movie like that, but it just for whatever reason I was drawn to it. I didn't have a super strong family history with it. I had a couple grandpas that served, one in the Vietnam era, and then another one as a pilot in World War II. He was an instructor. So I don't believe he ever saw combat. And then my other grandpa, he was a corpsman, and somehow he was able to avoid Vietnam due to some family hardships. But other than that, I was just drawn to it, and for me, it was always something that I thought was one of the most important things you could do. So
I love to hear that, because those are really the inspiring stories. Either the movie or the family and everything else. I was only inspired because of a girl. That's another time and another place. So I'm very much glad that not everybody was inspired by mine, because basically if the girl leaves, we lose our military. So that's what got you into the military. So you came in, and when did you actually leave, and how long were you in?
I got in from 13 and did 8 years. So I got out in 21. So got out just over 3 years ago. But it was a good time. I was stationed in Hawaii, and I was stationed in California. So, and now I got out and moved to South Carolina. But yeah, eight years, and a lot of good and bad and very interesting times, and pretty much everything else in between deployments and then starting a family and all kinds of good stuff. But 8 years, but I think my body felt as if it was about 50 years.
Yeah, I would agree, depending on the branch that you're in and everything else and whatnot. I mean, for me, I've done 24, and it's coming up in October. I mean, certain moments it feels like 50, but if I did 8, it feels like 50. I'd be dead. If I felt like you, I'd be 150 plus in age and body. So in 2021, you were in the midst of COVID when leaving. It's like we got into COVID in 20, and we're about 12 to 18 months. Everybody's transition story is different, but how did yours go, especially in the midst of that, and especially jumping back into the civilian world?
Honestly, it really wasn't bad. I was an instructor on the rifle range during that time, when all hell broke loose. And let's see, that was in 2020, I guess, when the world fell apart, or appeared to anyways. And I sent my wife and kids back here to South Carolina that I moved them back here. I think it was like November of that year. So for the most part, I was by myself, which it sucked because it was, I guess, similar to another deployment, just where I was without them for months on end. But it was actually kind of awesome too because I duck hunted a lot. But it it I don't know how to say it, but it was like so many guys don't take the time. They don't take the necessary steps when they're getting out. So like for me, I was like kind of paranoid about it. So it was like you could start some kind of paperwork. It was like a year out from your actual EAS, and it was like, all right, to the day, I'm starting that paperwork, and it was like, all right, at this point, you can start this paperwork, and so I took, excuse me, I took all of those steps like as soon as I possibly could, including all of my VA stuff. And I think that's something that a lot of guys don't do. Um, and I know vets now that they never even been to the VA, and I'm like, just for getting disability, and yeah, like there's obviously guys that have gone through way more than I ever did. Like I didn't get a chance to actually um, go see combat. Like as a grunt, like that's obviously what I wanted to do. Um, but my body still paid the price nevertheless. And so the way I look at it, I'm like, you know what, the military got theirs. Like I'll get mine. I have no qualms about it. Like, but there's just certain things that obviously hurt way more than they should as a 35-year-old man. Um, so I feel like I took a lot. I took the right steps getting out. So when I got out, I already had a job lined up with a solar company, and I felt like I was really prepared. Obviously, it sucked leaving a lot of my friends, but it was when I got out, I was ready. After missing birthdays and anniversaries and I mean all kinds of stuff, so I was ready to get out, and then got out and worked for that solar company for about 6 months. And honestly, I felt a little betrayed by them. So it was the owner of the company and like his right hand man were former Army colonels that were both in the infantry, and I told them up front that I was like, "Hey, I'm done. I'm done with like that traveling portion of my life." I was like, "I don't mind a week or two, here and there," but I was like, I'm not going for months on end. Just that's not happening. And so everything started off great. I was learning a lot. I had done a school prior to getting out that helped me transition, and so I was excited. And then all of a sudden, they asked if I would move positions, and I was to a position where I would move. I'd be gone a lot. I'd be gone for months on end, and I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. They're like, no, like you've been doing great. They're just like, we need someone with more experience. And so I felt pretty betrayed at that point, especially because the top two guys were obviously military. And then all of a sudden, like I've done nothing wrong. I get along great with everybody. And it was like, all right, now all of a sudden I'm going to change jobs. Like, and so I don't see it was a blessing. Um, there was a firefighter position open up here in town, and I went, applied, and interviewed, and got the job pretty much the same day. So the next day, I put in my 2 weeks, and so now I've been a firefighter for a little more than 2.5 years now.
See, that's the interesting part. You were fully prepared for all the ducks in the row, which most of our veterans go over and miss. If you are listening to this episode and you need some advice, I had some horror shows when I got out in 2012, and I like dissected what I broke down and gave 12 tips. And that's one of the first tips is to start everything early. So that is great that you had that mindset. I don't consider that paranoia. I consider that preparation. And you went over and prepared for getting out because people just stay in. And even now as a reservist, we have so many people that think they can go over and go last minute, the last day, go swear back in, and then they're too late, or they go over and they say, hey, I'm going to be able to get a job. I mean, the average job takes 6 to 9 months. And now you add this virtualization, post-COVID world, and you were coming in right when COVID was kind of like, we're still in it, but we're not fully out of it. So
Yeah.
I consider that wisdom that you went over and did that in advance. So I think maybe even God gave you some providence. It's like, oh, some things are going to hit the fan, like the world pandemic. And you got that providential. I'm like, maybe I should prep. So that is really cool because I wish I did that. I didn't do that in 2012. I literally got out, thought I could use my severance, go over and get my business up and rolling. And you can watch the episode. I go more into detail into that, but I'm glad that you went over and did that. So take this man's advice. Go follow Ryan. Go over and listen to what he's talking about. So let's talk about your current pivot. So you're a firefighter right now, but you're doing something more than that, serving the hunting community. And I thought it was very interesting because my hunting stories are more like I shoot until I miss a lot, and then hopefully I hit one. So what do you do in the hunting community that helps people better hunt in the community?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. Is me and my two buddies. We served together, and we all hunted together. And so we talk pretty much every day. And it started going on almost 2 years ago now. And my buddy Brody called me and was like, "Dude, I just bought this new shotgun, and I bought 2 boxes of shells." And he's like, "They didn't pattern at all. He's like, they suck." He's like, "I'm not going to take those hunting. Like, it's so frustrating because like once you figure out like that shell with your gun doesn't shoot well, yeah, I mean you can't really do. You obviously can't resell it, or you can't take it back to the store. So you're kind of SOL." And I was like, "All right, dude, like let's figure something out," because I could tell how frustrated he was. Um, and seriously, within just a few minutes, we were like, "All right, what if we put more than one type of shell in a single box, actually allowing you to try out a bunch and find the best one for you?" And I swear, it was like both of us kind of had that light bulb go off in our head like the same time. Like we talked for a few more minutes, and I was like, "Dude, like I think we should do this." And we each talked to some friends and family, and I called them the next day. I was like, "Dude, let's freaking do this, man. Like there isn't anything else out there like it. Like we can do this." And we started our research. Um, and I think that was in November of 21. Um, I think it was, yeah. Or no, sorry, 22. And it was like, all right, like let's let's freaking do this. So started all this research. Um, I mean, we talked to the ATF, which was interesting, just to make sure we were good there. And then we started talking with ammo companies, and turns out they've loved it because for them it's free marketing. They're getting us the shells, and they're working with us, and then we're getting their shells into people's hands who otherwise may not have tried that shell out before. And there's so many different types of shell out there nowadays, and then for there's so many different shotguns with so many different chokes that your combinations are essentially endless. So we're allowing hunters to narrow it down so significantly and so much cheaper that it's allowing guys to actually pretty much immediately become more efficient and effective hunters. So it's been a really cool interaction with the hunting community so far. So we launched our website last June, so it's been right at a year now, and we we started the LLC last January, so it's only been in total a year and a half. So we've had just absolutely unbelievable feedback, and sales have gone like better, have gotten better and better and better, and it's been awesome. So like we started with ducks, waterfowl shells, and now back in February came out with our turkey box. So there's a bunch of different variations in there, and it's like I said, it's the reaction to guys has been really cool. Like they're like, "Hey, this is great," or "Where were you guys 10 years ago?" Um, or why didn't I think of that? So it's like, all right, we're doing something right, and now we've had Delta Waterfowl, Ducks Unlimited, and National Wild Turkey Federation all write articles on us, and actually been published in their magazines. The NWTF one will come out in their magazine on in I think January, February timeframe. That's on their website, but the other two have actually been in the magazines. Actually, the current Delta Waterfowl magazine has us in there in the shotgunning section. So um, it's been kind of validating having these huge conservation organizations truly find the value in it and want to help you out in every way that they really can. Um, so we've got the Delta Waterfowl show I think 1 month from today in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It'll be a 3-day show, and that's our first like really big show. We've done um, a couple little ones, and it's been fun. But this one, I think I mean, the military's made us kind of all not necessarily pessimist, but realist, if you will, and I'm kind of scarily optimistic about it. So we are really excited for it.
I'm excited for you. I'm like, I've been working on my business for about a decade, and you just got out in 22, but you have a need on what people are looking for. It's just like they're hunting, they're buying ammo. If I'm understanding this right, they like, oh, I'm disappointed with the ammo. So I'm like, I just spent 20, 40, 60, $100. I mean, and then you're like, do I have to go buy new ammo? And then how many disappointments you might have, or be like, or play like Duck Duck Dam in a sense for ammo, and you'd be like, oh no, and then you're like, I spent $200 and I did that. So it sounds like you're just giving like a la carte, like here's a bunch of different ammo types, and you just go over and try them out, and you get to see the fun or the reaction, like, hey, this one really blew apart, or this one's a little more narrow and concise, or different things. Am I understanding that right? Is that what it is? It's almost like a variety pack.
Yes, that's actually essentially it's exactly what it is. Where it's just you get 8 different for your waterfowl. You have 8 different types of shell with 3 of each. So you get 24 shells in a box. And you may have some of those that are same company. Like there might be like 2 Winchester shells in there, but they're different Winchester shells. So we actually just released from compared to last year where we only had 5 different boxes. I think we have 11 or 12 different boxes now that we've just come out with to get ready for the show. So it honestly has been it's been a bit daunting. We went to the NWTF show back in February, excuse me, in Nashville, and it was, I mean, we were there just kind of walking around, but I talked with like every ammo company, and so it was super beneficial, but it was a bit daunting just to see like these people set up. I'm like, we are not going to be nearly as extravagant as some of those. Like I think Bass Pro had an area, and it was like, I mean, fully furnished, just like nicer than most people's houses. And I was like, all right, well, that's not going to be us. But there were still so many things that we had to do for it. The amount of ammo we had to get was it was a lot. That definitely took a toll on me because I do pretty much all of the ammo ordering, and after several $1,000s on our company credit card, definitely took its toll. Um, but it's it's coming, and I'm kind of like at that, just sitting on the edge of my seat, like, all right, like let's just hurry up and get there, because now that we have all of our stuff, I am ready. And like it's been a lot more work than I ever anticipated. Because before it was like when we started, I was like, dude, screw it, we'll put ammo in a box and people will buy it.
Mhm.
And there's obviously been a little bit more to that. We come out with our own logos, um, and then licensing and website stuff and social media. So it's been a whole lot more than all of us really reckon for. So, but it's been rewarding. But that's why I'm kind of like, all right, done all this work. Like let's get to the show and really see what's on the end of the line there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've experienced a lot. So basically, almost like Shark Tank for you for about a year, and now you're trying to at the precipice and everything else. And with
Yep.
that, there's a lot of trying chimes and pressure and tough things that come up. What's your secret fuel for going? Because you're still doing the firefighter full time, and then you're running Patent Pros USA, and basically brought a variety pack of bullets and ammo to people that no one ever thought about. So how do you deal with that pressure and tough times, especially when you get to those conferences and those big shows?
Um, Honestly, like having like surrounding yourself with other vets has been unbelievably beneficial. Christian and Brody were already like two of my best friends. I mean, we talk every single day, anyways, prior to even starting Pattern Pros. Um, but now it like you can just relate so much more to them, and like the way you talk to each other is obviously you can't talk to most civilians like that. It's just way too harsh. Um, but it's so you can be so hard on each other. You can be blunt with them, like, "Hey, dude, I need you to get your head out of your ass. Like, we need to do this," or like, "No, to hell with that. Like, that's a stupid idea." Um, and so having those people around you that you can communicate with such ease, and like you have that same kind of humor, is honestly like it honestly been my saving grace. Um, like I had a couple of vets um, at the solar company, and that was nice to be able to talk to them. And then when I got to the fire department, there's no other vets there at the time, uh, but very very similar atmosphere. Um, so that's honestly been nice. So honestly, finding people that have either vets, which isn't always going to be great, because other than a veteran, you may not necessarily have anything in common with them. So like for us, like hunting was the thing that started our friendship. Um, all three of us were in different units, except for Brody was an armor at one of the instructor groups that I was a part of, and then Christian's kids are the exact same ages as mine. So that's kind of how we started to get to know each other. But our friendship really blossomed when all three of us started to hunt together. So really finding those guys who have those similar passions has really helped me just go through it, because it's like, I'm 35 now. I've been married for almost 10 years, two kids. So you don't necessarily have time to go out and make new friends. So like we moved to South Carolina, um, and my wife's family's from here. So like I love her family. But I don't have necessarily like a ton of friends, just because it's hard to go out and just meet friends randomly. My wife knowing a ton of people here has helped. Um, but having the guys that I can call and pretty much any hour of the day, and be like, if I text them and, dude, I need you right now, like they're gonna have they'll call me. Um, so finding vets, and guys who necessarily had your same passion, like it doesn't take a ton of effort. I don't think if you wanted to go find somebody who does the same stuff, um, which is what I've had to do. Like I don't necessarily like a lot of veterans. Like I don't necessarily like to go out and just go find people. Um, but that's that's honestly helped me a lot. Is just having people who with the same passions around me.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So basically, military and duck hunting and those people that connect, and we need to have that. We need to have that. It's more than 22 a day now. I mean, just call it what it is. I mean, the
Yeah.
numbers are high, and when you don't have purpose and you don't have belongingness, you can easily go over and make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So
Yep.
going over and having that belongingness with your friends that you started a business with, and then sharing hunting and everything else, goes over and gives you that shoulder to shoulder, that belongingness and everything else. That's really cool. Let's break down one more thing. Our last question we do for everybody is 3 superhero tactics. Let's use your entrepreneurial, because you just skyrocketed. Like in 1 year, you went from like, we're hunting, maybe we should do shells in a box, and now you're like full blown business, and you have endorsements I wish I had in my world. Obviously, I don't want Ducks Unlimited because it's not my brand, but you got all these things that happen so fast. So if you had to mentor yourself about a year or 2 years ago, what would you tell yourself to go from surviving to thriving? Because you're almost at the tipping point of thriving. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like one big boom and you're just going to be. So what would you tell let's say you're mentoring somebody that's getting into the biz, or maybe someone that's doing business for the first time? What would you give them as tactics so they can get to thriving and not have to go through a lot of the hard times?
Um. So honestly, like for myself, like I don't like change. And so I feel like before I really started, we started Pattern Pros. It felt like I was just kind of hitting my head up against the wall. I was doing the same things, and I was, I was working myself into the ground, into the ground. It just didn't feel like I was really going anywhere. Um, so I I think so many people get in that rut where they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're just kind of spinning your wheels. Finding something else to just to not necessarily to get by, but to do something better. Um, so like unfortunately, like in my fire department, they pay us like crap, and so I think probably 6 months ago, I kind of started the process of looking for another job. Um, Not necessarily another job, but like another department. Um, and so about 3 months ago, I started my EMT class because our fire department doesn't have we don't do EMT. We are strictly fire. So I started that, and that's going to allow me to go work for federal firefighting, and that pay is almost double what I make now. Like getting my foot in the door. Like day one, I'll make almost double what I do right now. So finding something that will actually make you better, and not just make you better like in for that one day, but it's the longevity. So I've really started to think about it more. Just what am I gonna do that's gonna make my future better? Because like in 20 years, I want to be freaking retired. I want to be either hunting, fishing, or golfing every single freaking day. Um, and like there's so many of these hunts like out west, like going for elk and moose and all, but I mean deer, bear, all of it, and like that. Those are the things I want to be able to do. And other than like maybe a trip a year where I go, me, Christian, and Brody will go duck hunt. Um, it's very hard to make those trips happen. So for me, I'm like, how can I really improve not only my current situation, but my future? And then now, having a 6 and soon to be 8-year old, I think about their future. So I'm like, hey, in 60 years or however long, my until my body gives out, um, I want them to be provided for. So, and that's one of the reasons um, that I was so adamant about my VA disability. So like I came out at 70%, um, and I said, screw that. Like so many other things hurt that would just wasn't natural. It wasn't just like, oh, that's a little ache. It was like not debilitating, but just like not fun to live with. And so I fought to get upgraded to 100%. Um, and that provided me immediate more money and a long-term thing. So those doing those things that are going to provide you long-term benefits to allow you to do the things that you want to do. So if you're just sitting there butting your head up against the wall, like pause, look back at yourself and go, what can I actually do to improve my situation, and not just like, hey, I made it to the next day.
So it sounds like fight for your legacy, fight for your benefits, and fight for your mission. That's what it sounds like in your 3 superhero tactics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's really cool, because definitely doing that. I'm at the 60%, so I'm not that far in that fight. I still need to get up a little further. I'm working on that myself. So I will definitely take that to comfort, because I'm supposed to check out my records tomorrow. So definitely a good reminder. So let's get into our last piece. Say again?
If you're still fighting for it, there's actually a company called REE Medical, and they were the company that helped me. So you pay them like a flat rate. I honestly think it was like $2,000, which obviously, and they can break it up to a few payments. But for me, it was, I mean, that was, yeah, that sucked right there. But at the same time, the longevity, like my first paycheck after that was made up for it, and obviously it's just significantly improved my life. So if you think that what happened to you is like, hey, like I feel like I'm worth this, then honestly they helped out a lot.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my final records. So hopefully they have them. I got to go back to the VA, and I'm still in the reserve, and I got to go find those ones. So definitely cool. And I will definitely go look into that. So let's close out about your biz. And then so the way we close out all our shows is that we uplift your brand, and then we allow you to go over and either give one really awesome quote, or you just, once you're done talking, a 2-second audio to pause, and then we'll just hit the credits. So the floor is yours to talk about Pattern Pro USA or anything else you want to close out the show.
Well, first of all, I wish I would have thought of an awesome quote, but I didn't. So yeah, as you can you'll find us out on Facebook, Pattern Pros USA. Instagram is just all one word, Pattern Pros, and then the website is patternprosusa.com. And yeah, like, and honestly, people can message us on any one of those, and one of us will get back to you like that day. If you go on the website, my number is actually at the bottom. So if you do have questions about it, let me know. Call. I mean, I got a call today, just a couple hours ago, and a guy was suggesting something that I was like, oh, you know what? Honestly, that's a good idea. Something we can do to our website to help customers out. But yeah, if you want to become pretty much immediately a more effective hunter, then let us know. And don't, like, again, just don't stop. And I'd say, I guess my quote would be, the enemy doesn't care you're tired. So that whoever that the enemy is that day, whether that's your lack of sleep, whether that's your boss at work being an asshole, or whatever it is, just seriously, just keep grinding, and find those people that have similar mindsets and goals. And I promise you, you will see those rewards start to roll in